here in the qualitative methodology, research methodology, we have different types of approach. It can be observation, interviewing, case study, focus group, and content analysis we have seen. Can you answer this question? In measures of central tendency, what is equivalent to the 50th percentile? Already got the two answers. Brilliant. Median is the right answer. Correct. All of you correct. The middle, the term central tendency refers to the middle value or perhaps a typical value of the data and is measured using the mean, median or mode. The median is the middlemost in the score in the distribution from 0 to 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, 100th percentile. So the Q2, quarter 2 or 50th percentile, that is the median. Okay, in a remuneration survey, we split on the 4 quarters. We learned in total rewards. So exactly half of the scores fall above and half of them fall below the median. It is the equivalent of the 50th percentile. Then we moved on to learning about mean, median, mode. Mean is just an average. We are not satisfied with the mean findings because it's misleading. It's skewed towards the popularity, the majority we are seeing. That's why we are getting into the median. Median will give you the idea of where exactly the 50th percentile. So we can figure out 50th percentile of falling below, 40th percentile falling above. So we get more clarity on that. So we can also do standard deviation at later point in the research, advanced research we can do that. But median will help you to find out. And mode, we have seen the frequency of the data set. It can be a bimodal, multimodal, and it can be no mode also possible. All the numbers in data set, if you observe, all the numbers are same numbers, then there is no mode. We have seen that. Then here we are looking at interpreting the correlation coefficient. So here you are looking at how the data, the pattern appearing in the x-axis, y-axis, in a reality, you don't find the pattern falling in a straight line, a curved line as you look at in the screen. It never happens. We may see the pattern, but it will not be exactly falling in the straight line. That you need to be very clear. Okay. So here, for example, perfect positive correlation. We all know employee satisfaction. Earlier we did a lot of satisfaction surveys. Now we realized satisfaction doesn't guarantee productivity, because I can get satisfied by leisurely activity, going vacation and other stuff. The variables is not controllable. So it is not perfectly correlated. Okay, that's why they evolved the concept of employee engagement, organization health index, all the terms, terminology we are learning. Engagement survey. Engagement will give you clear prediction of the productivity. That means directly positive correlation, perfect positive correlation. Okay, and negative correlations can be, for example, the manager is nagging, micromanaging, nothing seems to be working out. The attrition rate will be affecting. So it's negatively correlating. Okay, and then there is a zero correlation. For example, if there no relationship with the two variables, the example can be zero correlation. For example, you are trying to increase the salary more and more, and you are trying to figure out whether the motivation, the productivity, is it going up? No, surprisingly it may not, because to certain level only people are motivated for the money. Money cannot drive the discretionary effort and other stuff. It's zero correlation. It may bound to happen. Okay, then you have perfect negative more or less, similar negative correlation, more or less positive correlation, and zero linear correlation also possible. These are all scenarios in which the data are following in different patterns, and then we come out with a conclusion. It's positively, negatively correlated, all that. Any questions on this? Okay. Next, we'll move on to the next one. Quiz. An integrity test results are consistent, and the test measures what is intended to measure. This test is considered what? Mohammed got it, nailed it. D is the right answer. Yeah, reliability is the consistency of your measurement, or the degree to which an instrument measures the same way each time it is used under the same condition with the same subjects. The name itself, reliability, that means repeatability or consistency. Consistently it is happening, recurring. Validity refers to the degree to which a study accurately reflects or assesses the specific concept that the researcher is attempting to measure. You can distinguish reliability and validity. Do you have any doubts? Okay, move on to the next one. So you all play a dot game, right? When you play a dot game, if it is hitting the bullseye, that means it is precise and accurate, both reliable and valid. And when you are hitting, it is not in the bullseye, but then somewhere you are reaching. But every time you throw, it's hitting the same spot. That means it's reliable, but not valid. Another scenario, you are hitting, but everything is random. There is no pattern, here and there. Sometimes you are going to different dot posts also. That means it's not valid, not reliable. It's possible. Okay, now can you answer? The effective management of a human resources in a firm to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace requires Darren got it. Very good. Nailed it. So A is the right answer. Timely and accurate information on current employees. In the HRMS, what you have, it has to be reliable and it has to be more efficient, and that's the purpose of bringing in a HRMS. So business leaders need accurate and timely decisions, support information to be effective. The CEO, the top management relying on you, your inputs, the people insights, what you have, it's very rich information what you have. So they need to take a business decisions, the critical decisions based on your input. So if you have a good system which can support the predictive analytics and also the scenario planning, sophisticated software, if you have dashboard, it is good for you, including their talents and the employees, the people insights what you have. Accurate and timely information is what the corporate executives are in need of to make appropriate decisions and make best position in order to position their organization to mitigate the impact of the crisis. Very important. Information, if it is accurate, then they make a good decision, and the good decisions saves your company, and it can achieve a competitive advantage. Thus, HR support the company's business strategies with the better, faster workforce decisions informed by the data, well informed by data. Now the big data, data mining, all that concepts, analytics, now what we are doing this module got a prime importance nowadays. Artificial intelligence, machine learning also helps you to get algorithms, deep learning is all possible now. So when you look at this, Bursin was working Deloitte. He proposed this idea of 4 levels of having HRMS. The level 1 is more of reactive. Level 2 is a little bit of proactive measures where you can do advanced reporting. And the third level is more of strategy. Reactive analysis, you can do some segmentation, which category is telling what information, and you can categorize and then present to segmenting possible. Statistical analysis, correlation, tabulation, all that you can do. But if you ask me, as per the research, most of the companies are under this stage only. They are not moving ahead. To that predictive modeling. Most of the 78%, 80%, all only up to this level. Okay, with that we covered the data and analysis. Immediately after this main presentation, I will be giving another set of presentation where we'll have deep dive into the formulas in a practical sense. Okay, so here is a quick main track what we are going through now. The overall purpose of the balanced scorecard approach is to this all we already covered. Just we are doing a quick revision. For those who didn't attend, it's good for them. Already I got 2 answers. Yes, Sumita got it. Very good. Help turn strategy into action. Okay. One of the problems in the organizations that Kaplan and Norton found was that employees do not know how to turn the strategy into a day-to-day action. There is a mismatch. You can have a best strategy, and when it fails, we tend to say it's CEO's strategy. What kind of idea? Bullshit like that. No, you start grumbling and complaining. This is what we just pass the game. Blame on others. That's not the case in reality. Most of the strategy fail because lack of implementation. The execution excellence is very, very important. So one of the problem in organizations that Dr. Kaplan and Dr. Norton found was the employees do not know how to turn the strategy into day-to-day action. The balanced scorecard approach gives employees something to aim for, should be consistent with the organization's strategy. It is like a tool which is helping you to implement the top-down strategy at a bottom level. Okay, next we are looking at here how the interlinkages happening, how the cascading of the vision, mission, values through the 4 perspectives we have seen: financial, customer, internal perspective, and learning perspective. And then further we cascade into strategic goals, which are in alignment with the corporate goals, business strategy and functional strategy. And then from that, we draw insights of OKRs, KPIs, and SMART goals. And then we evolve with OKRs and KPIs, and then we fix the targets, and we have measure definition. We'll define the formula, and then we drill down to know what exactly is happening. We monitor closely. And then for achieving that, we may take some initiatives, action plan. This every scorecard, every metrics, KPIs will have proper action plan initiatives so that we can all align together. It will achieve the common vision and mission. That's the purpose of the balanced scorecard. Initially, the stakeholders were concerned about philus, money, profit. That was the only focus. That's okay. Short term, you may win, but a long-term sustainability is a big question mark. That's why we need to have balanced approach. That's why this balanced scorecard gained, momentum across the corporate world. Now it's a hot topic now. Okay, now the question, the measurement. percentage of the employees following a supervisor approved competency model would most likely be placed in which perspective of the balance scorecard? Balance scorecard is not a one-time event. It's a journey. It's a journey. Keep going. You need to year by year you will have a rolling out. 5 year strategic planning. Every year you fine tune, adjust. In the ministry, they have 5 years to make it. They made it 10 years plan. So in the balance scorecard, you'll your scope of that balance scorecard is not only financial objective but non-financial objectives as well. That's also you need to keep in mind. So here the measurement percentage of the employees following a supervisor approved competency model would most likely be placed in which perspective of the balance scorecard? Arti, Darren, every brilliant. B is the right answer. Learning and growth. Yesterday we discussed learning and growth. We have clearly seen in the strategic map. It is forming like a foundation. Am I right? We saw that's kind of a leading indicator, and then slowly evolving to a net margin profit. That's what we call the outcome. Lagging indicators, whichever is called, the outcome, the postmortem. Okay, that's another topic. Here we are talking about the measurement relates to helping grow the workforce, and this most likely fit with the learning and growth perspective of the balance scorecard. Clear. Everything, you can figure out from the question. If you deeply study, understand the question, you can easily figure out the answer. You can read and reread again and again, and then you will get an idea. It will back of mind through the answer. Okay. The good thing, the right answer is in front of you. Okay. Here, the HR measures and the balance scorecard. How we have the interlinkages. Balance scorecard. At the bottom line, we have HR scorecard. How we can have alignment, and the how we can integrate achieving the intellectual capital. The balance scorecard, as we have seen, there are 4 perspectives: financial capital, finance perspective, customer perspective, customer capital, internal process capital, innovation capital, learning and growth, human or organization or IT capital. Okay. Workforce scorecard. Here we are talking about workforce success, leadership and workforce behavior, workforce competencies, and workforce mindset and culture. Okay. Then it is cascaded to HR scorecard, right HR deliverables and the cost, right type of HR alignment, and right HR practices, right HR professionals. It's very important. That's why we are having certification. We are all certified HR professionals, right HR professionals with the right HR practices, global practices we are applying, and right type of HR alignment we can do, and right HR deliverables. We have seen the 3rd module, HR delivery, service delivery. Okay. Now the question: which of the following measures would be used under the balance scorecard approach to measure customer perspective? Very good. Immediately got the answer. Market share. Very good. Customer related to market, right? Market share, out, external. So the customer perspective is looking at how the customers are changing and reacting. Market share would be used in measuring the customer perspective. Brilliant. Yesterday, I think we just to have a quick recap. We covered this topics. For those who didn't cover, please pay attention. I will cover now. We have balance scorecard we have seen, and then there's I have made on YouTube also. I share with you about the strategy map one exclusively. I made on YouTube. Okay, for you guys. I don't know how many of you are watching the YouTube. It's not easy effort, a lot of editing has to be done properly. It has to be recorded. Many things are going on back at the back end. So here we are looking at the uh, strategy map. Is a visual representation of the strategy. Okay, the balanced scorecard provides the discipline for successful organization in a very systematic way. We have seen the scorecard. In addition to building a scorecard, in the executives team to better understand and articulate their strategies, the foundation of the design is a strategy map. I was working in a Alsair Group Toyota way back in 2007, 2004, 2005. During the time, this was a hot topic. I didn't have much resources. That time, I ordered a book about HR scorecard from Amazon. It delivered, couriered, I received. Successfully, I came out with a 5-year strategic planning. Alhamdulillah, we got the approval also for that. So this figure, for example, when you are waging a war, Iraq invaded Kuwait. Saddam Hussein would have consulted with all the general army, chief, looked at the critical mission critical areas like where the oil fields, where the airport and bridges, water tank, everything in the mission critical road. He would have looked at. He would have had a good map, the approach. Likewise, as a HR, CHRO, people champion, when you are supporting the business strategy, you are also likewise, waging a war, against the competition. We are living in a VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, everything is changing. Technology is changing, disruption happening day in, day out. So it's constantly, you need to be on top of the game. So for that, you need to have a good strategy map. So visually, if you present, it is appealing, right? So if there is any breakage, linking missing, easily you can figure out and fix it then and there, like a Kaizen approach. You got to stop and then ask why, and then fix it. Same analogy, you can just keep it here as well. So here you are looking at the picture. There is a linkage missing. The product specifications, product quality should be delivered on time, quality, but that's not happening. That is affecting the dealer relationship, win-win dealer relationship. And then that will in turn affect the net margin and the revenue will shrink. You suffer. So you need to fix this problem here. You need to, maybe you have to implement the ISO 9001 standard or adherence to the, the compliance, adherence to the norms. Everything has to be proper, documented, well documented. And everyone has to be upgraded. Their skills, competency has to be upgraded. And the dealership also, they need to gear up their knowledge, product knowledge up to the main, distributor. Likewise, you need to build this. Then it will be okay. So as you see here, learning and growth perspective falling in the bottom. It's like a foundation. That's a leading indicator. You need to take care. Then internal process perspective, customer perspective, that leads to financial perspective, the outcome. Okay. So if you take care of the personal growth, take care of the employees' aspiration in alignment with the career development, career management, all that, if you take care, they will deliver a good service. They delight the customers. And then delighting the customer result in volume growth. Your market share will increase and revenue growth will by default will come. So when you have this revenue growth and then you do a financial analysis, financial reporting like profit and loss, balance sheet, costing, all that is a lagging indicator, whatever has happened, the activity. Leading indicator, for example, Smita working for bargaining exchange company, and she has to train the frontline customer interfacing executives, frontline. If she able to give the right tools, and they have to be updated with the policy and procedure, product knowledge about the banking's relation and the terms and the protocols, SOPs, everything has to be briefed in the frontline executives. They have to be bulletproof so that they can face the customers any kind of situation. So that will bring more revenue growth. So that's how to see how to invest on, bank on the upgrading the skills of the frontline executives. This we did for the Toyota Lexus as an initiative. He suggested the Thomas International Psychometric Profiling, and also we did kind of competency mapping and upgrading the frontline executives we did. To achieve an organization goals, what type of measurement is needed? Hello? I can chat box already. I got 6 answers. Wow, brilliant. Mohammed says D. Okay. Key performance indicators to achieve an organization goals. Yeah, that also important. But then what's the primary input? Primarily, you'll look at the management objectives. Then you'll go for the KPI or OKRs. It's also important, but then it'll come as a secondary step. So here, what type of measurement is needed initially achieve an organizational goals? Management by objectives, MBO, we call, can help to increase organizational performance by aligning the subordinate objectives throughout the organization with the overall organization goals that management has already set. So KPIs vary between the companies and functions depending on their priorities or performance criteria. A company must establish its management goals and then choose the KPIs which best reflects those goals. Okay. So here we are looking at management by objectives, the process, how it has been carried out. Define the organizational goals, cascade the objectives, monitor the performance, evaluate the business performance, then provide feedback. All these phases you will have the feedback, getting the feedback, and then appraise the employee performance. This was propagated by Peter Drucker, management guru, who first introduced business in 1950s. It's a system called management by objectives and self-control. The basis for the system is that organizations will be more successful if their efforts are all pulled in the same direction. Everything in alignment. Do you recollect we had a presentation exclusively on change management? I showed you the pyramid. If the organizations are even aligned, they will achieve. You all like that. And then there's another pyramid with everyone is pulling in a different direction, working silos. That will not succeed. You will not invest on that firm. So pulling everything has to be in same direction, and their contributions are fit together to produce a whole without gaps, without friction, without unnecessary duplication of efforts. This focus on goal setting and alignment as a way to improve the organizational performance as it was at the time progressing, provide the best path to it will guarantee you the profitability. MPO, management by objective, and the balance scorecard are essentially overlapping, more similar concepts. They are both based on the development of the strategic measurements. Although balance scorecard is more explicit about what those strategic measurements are, intended for, but here we are talking about the MPO is more focused. Balance scorecard is actually drill down the deeper level, top to bottom. It is more detailed. Okay, but MBO, management objective, is like a superficial and it's giving you a big picture how all this organization has been integrated In a eagle view, you can look at MBO. And the four perspectives we have seen in the balance scorecard: customers, financial, all remember now, internal processes, learning and growth, and financial measures. So the practical importance of the objectives in management can best be seen by summarizing how successful managing by objectives works in practice, not by theory or having it in from the MD set the MBO, but in practical sense, how you can apply and implement. As I told you before, some of the company may not be suitable. Yesterday, we discussed this. I showed you the case study also. And the mindset, culture also matters. You may have this OKRs and the KPIs, but your company is not ready to adapt. That also possible. You cannot do anything. It's a resist, culture resist. And KPIs, certain companies you can do, but OKRs is the best approach. Goals are critical issues to organizational effectiveness, and they serve a number of purposes. Okay, organization can also have several different kinds of goals, all of which must be appropriately managed, and number of different kinds of managers must be involved in setting the goals. When setting the goals, you have to involve your employees also. They have to be involved in setting the goals. Don't you agree? Otherwise, what they think is it's a manager's goal. They will not own. They may not get empowered. Okay, so that's very important. Then cascade the objectives. After making sure employees, managers have the informed, the pertinent general objectives, strategies, and planning premises all even described, the manager can then proceed to work with the employees in setting the objectives. The managers ask the subordinates. Most of the time, we introduced in Bubian Bank. It was when I joined. It was way back in 2007. It was paper based, and supervisor sets everything on top of employees. Then we implemented a core values of employee focus, customer focus. Then we started the appraisal with the employee focus, self-assessment, and end with the employee. Employee has to click the tick mark in Oracle that his or her manager discussed with him. He gave a feedback. If that we made it mandatory, the employee has to tick, then only it will proceed to the next stage. We made that kind of processes in the system Oracle. So it's very important. You need to involve your employees, ask what goals the employees believe they can accomplish in what kind of time period. You may push people, but the environment is not conducive, the context. There's no demand in the market. There are some challenges, practical challenges. That insights, market intelligence, those guys who are on the road, they know, they give you a proper input. So they involve them. It's better. So with the right resources, you can provide, if there's a challenges, constraints, you can, you can help them to overcome those challenges. So then they will then you can come make a discussion and then bring a consensus. Okay, about what goals seem feasible, and is it okay or not okay, or is there any support you can provide to achieve that desired results for the company and department. That's how you conclude. Then after setting, you need to monitor the performance. We are coming into this phase of monitoring the performance. This is very important. So that's why I took a lot of time on this. How you have to set properly, involving, empowering the people. Then monitoring, it's like a policing. I don't recommend exactly. People have to take their ownership. Results matters than monitoring whether they are coming on time, going on time. It doesn't matter. Busy bodies doesn't work. Activity centric, process centric, but the results matters. So MBO process is not only essential for making the line managers in business organization more effective, but also equally important for monitoring the performance and progress of the employees. For monitoring the performance and progress, what we need to do, identify ineffective programs by comparing the performance with the pre-established objectives. For example, you can do a zero-based budgeting because of the constraints, budget constraint, post-pandemic, resources are very limited. We cannot have a budget, luxury of having a budget referring to the previous years. Pre-pandemic is okay, but post-pandemic, the game changed. So you can recommend a zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting, also called ZBB, zero-based budgeting, is a process of creating a budget from nothing without using a prior year's budget or spending numbers. You cannot build 2% over the top of the previous year or 5% over nothing. You need to build from the scratch, and you have to justify whatever initiative you are going to do. So applying the MBO concept for measuring the individual plans is very important. Preparing a long and short range objectives and plans, installing the effective controls, and designing organizational structures with a clear responsibility, roles and responsibilities. There is no ambiguity. Decision-making authority at the appropriate level, all are very important. Then evaluate the business performance. Here we are coming to this stage. Under the MBO process, performance reviews are made by the participation of the concerned managers. Involve, empower the managers. With the collaboration only, you can monitor the business performance. Then provide the feedback. Feedback is very, very important. Monitoring and controlling feedback. Everyone is looking for feedback, whether they are going on track, off track, or ahead of the schedule. Everything has to be given a good feedback, right? The final ingredients in the MBO program are continuous feedback on performance and goals that allow individuals to monitor and correct their own actions. This continuous feedback is supplemented by periodic formal appraisals meetings with the supervisors and the subordinates can review the progress toward the goals. It should not be a year-end exercise. It should be ongoing. That's what I recommend strongly, even though the book is not mentioning. In the project management, if you read, they are also saying every phase has this process involved, embedded, the monitoring and controlling and providing the feedback. That's how your understanding should be. It's not like, keeping for the sake of keeping it here doesn't mean at this stage. It can be involved in all the stages. Okay. So it's very important. This is the latest insight, it's not in the book, but keep in mind, feedback should be given all the phases, should be embedded. Appraise employee performance. Performance appraisals are a regular review of the employees within the organizations. It is done at the last stage of the MBO process. Now, the performance appraisals, what we are doing, we are going to discuss today. How it's building a morale or it's damaging, that and all we are going to discuss today. Okay. And in this context, MBO, one point I would like to highlight, in the performance feedback has to be given throughout the year. And throughout the year, the kudos has to be captured. Not the year-end exercise, whatever is doing toward the 11th year, that doesn't make sense, So it has to be consistent. Okay, now we have covered this. Then we are moving. We took 45 minutes, solid 45 minutes to review the complete, whatever you covered so far. Now I am taking you to the new chapter, which is HR measures. I think this also we covered yesterday. Which of the following is not the HR measures can drive the performance of customer perspective? This is also we covered. Just quickly answer, please. Yeah, very good. Ashok and Smita, brilliant. Percentage of satisfied customers. Answer A is the workforce success, not the drive for performance, business performance of the customer perspective based on balanced scorecard approach. Then we are looking at here how the workforce scorecard is been built, integrated with the balance scorecard. You may wonder, balance scorecard is organizational wide, or HR. What's the role in HR? What's the role? It's a big role we have. That's how this, HR scorecard plays a very important pivotal role. So in balance scorecard, we have seen all the four perspectives. I don't want to repeat again. So this how you take into, embed within the HR by analyzing the work. In this diagram, what you see, the workforce scorecard is a key value creating a link between the balance scorecard and the HR scorecard. It does not mean that a firm needs to have all the three scorecards in place to benefit from these ideas. For many firms, the most important step is simply a change in direction that begins to move from the framework, including the HR functions, workforce, and the business levels outcomes. Okay, it is actually dynamic, because the market is not stable, the business is not stable. You may pull according to the demands, so the consideration of the business, you just fine tune also. Adapting the new perspectives on the workforce success is the foundation of this more formal measurement system. Very important. You cannot rely on fixed goals. You have to be flexible also, according to the demands and the strategy. So much progress can be made with the right perspective and much less formal and comprehensive measurement systems. Organizations will often begin by identifying one business outcome, the workforce success, and then examining the relationship between the business outcome and a single leading indicator in the workforce scorecard. Like leading indicator, I told leadership competency, for example, is very, very important, crucial. While I was working for Marcus Kuwait Financial Center, we spent more than 50,000 KD for training around 8 to 10 executives top level, not necessarily top level but critical position, people whom we consider mission critical roles. We spend quite a lot of money on leadership development. It's very important. So this builds a shared enthusiasm for these ideas among the line managers and HR professionals and builds the foundation for further elaboration of the framework. Most firms develop explicit strategies to optimize the resources, such as they go for a capital, leveraging the capital, technology, upgradation, brands, rebuilding the brands, branding, rebranding, all this so on, they keep on doing it. But few firms are as articulate in their strategy for their most costly resource, the human capital, within quotation. This is what important. Not as Vinayak also, once we had a discussion, not looking at only your infrastructure, investing, on sophisticated technology, machine material, all this, okay. But human capital is very important, critical. A clear and compelling workforce strategy is a key element of effective business strategy execution. Okay? And the nature of workforce strategy should be highly differentiated and customized for each firm. Effective workforce management strategies and practices can have a powerful effect on business outcomes, including productivity, profitability, and the shareholder value. Such a critical, crucial job you are doing, the manpower planning, workforce planning. If you do it well, why should you lay off? Why should you do downsizing later on if it is taken care? Or if you're optimizing the resources, you can redeploy them in future, forthcoming projects, or reallocate the resources as per their aspiration. It's possible. We need to keep it as a last resort. Okay, and we need to keep in mind human capital is the prime. So while firms with a highly differentiated product strategy but generic or undifferentiated workforce strategies, all this, differ, it differs all about it. Yesterday, again, we discussed that the I circled also mindset and culture plays a role. What kind of mindset? Okay, so that also plays a vital role. So scorecard offers an approach to developing a workforce strategy as well as balanced scorecard designed to assess the success of the corporate and the strategic business units strategies, SPU strategies. So workforce scorecard is used to bridge the gap. The gap is being bridged, no, the business, and then this gap you see, uh, this is what we are trying to achieve between the development of business strategy and the implementation through the people. Prime factor, human capital, is the such as scorecard. That linkage we are seeing. Then workforce strategy. Here, the fundamental problem with doing this is that while particular practice may well be best in class or native form, there is no reason to expect that the best practice taken from wide variety of firms and industries will work together in a synergetic manner. You may come across a best jargon, hot topic, AI, machine learning or something, like re-engineering, other stuff. But is it feasible within your company? Can you adapt? That's also very important. Customize, tailor make. So we need to look at how we can synergize those concepts. Think globally, but act locally. Let alone do a good job in helping to execute the firm's strategy from the perspective of the workforce. Keep them people in mind. Do the job with your heart as a people person. So this type of misalignment can be painfully obvious. Sometimes it happens. They go by misled by the popularity and also the jargons or things like that. So in order for a firm to transform its system of managing workforce performance into a strategic asset, the system must be contributing more directly to the strategic execution. Everything has to be aligned. The system has to leverage. Technology has to be, work hand in hand. Instead of relying on the best practices, this requires the development of workforce strategies that are increasingly differentiated between the firms and within the firms. For example, Marriott. I take one of my student who participated from Dubai. She works in Marriott for 14 years, still working there. She mentioned her founder had, Marriott himself believes treating the employees as an internal guest. Take care of their accommodation, their uniform and neatness, cleanliness, well-being of their employees, so that they take care of the external guest. That's why the Marriott, ranking on top of the rank, amongst all the hotel chain around the world. So it is increasingly differentiation matters. And we look at core workforce differentiation. Firms that exhibit core workforce differentiations attempts to match each of the elements of the workforce strategy to its overarching business strategy. As a result, the defining characteristic of a core workforce strategy is its homogeneity or consistency within a particular firm. Focusing the workforce system at the level implies a core set of skills, competencies, and behaviors that, when taken together, will achieve this goal. Everything has to be aligned and work together. So workforce differentiation in this framework what we are talking about is similar to the notion of core competencies, in that it delivers a comprehensive workforce capability for its overarching value proposition. You need to leverage the core values what you have. I've been to the UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can also research where I encountered the human capital innovation team. They shared with me whatever they do, recruitment, performance appraisals, learning and development, all the HR intervention what you do in alignment with the core values, which I never witnessed in other federal entities. This is a phenomenal, having the alignment of leveraging the core competency as a DNA, which is differentiating from other firms. Everyone can copy your business. It's not a big deal. now Vinayak and Aarti, the working Siemens, switchgear, control panel, there are many competitors, ABB and Agalia and others, Alstom, they are all doing similar, competitors are there. But if you are able to differentiate from other competitors with your the core competency, then you are the leader. Nobody can shake or nobody can copy your DNA. Okay. Then we are talking about the workforce customization. The strategic workforce customization involves a more explicit linkage between the workforce strategy and the strategy performance drivers. It means that there is no one homogeneous workforce strategy for a particular corporate strategy. You cannot have tailor-made standalone workforce strategy, but rather the workforce strategy will be differentiated across the firm's strategic performance drivers. As we very well, you would have learned this Cardinal Health case study. Across the multinational healthcare industry, every strategic business units, they had a different kind of methodology as per their business drivers. Okay, so that in turn, what it resulted increase in the engagement score. There was a perfect correlation you saw in the case study. So unlike the core workforce differentiation, which differentiates the workforce strategy on just 2 or 3 core strategies, performance drivers within these core strategies are also potential points for the differentiation. These points is that not only will the workforce strategies differ across the firms that have different core strategies, that they will differ within the firm as well. That you see in the Cardinal Health. So the Cardinal Health had an overall strategy, but within the firm, they had a different strategy, different approach to the appraisals, with objectives, without appraisal, rating, without ranking, all this we saw. This is one example. Okay, then we are talking about the leadership and the workforce behavior. Are the leadership team and the workforce, consistently behaving in a way that will lead achieving our key strategic objectives? Have you identified your A players? Do you have a separate talent management approach? Have you identified your talent pool? A players are the star performers with high potential in their professional fields. Then we are talking about workforce competencies. Does the workforce, especially in the key or A positions, have the skills it needs to execute the strategy? Then workforce mindset and culture. Yesterday, remember, I gave a live testimony also what happened in the previous day. Mindset and culture also very important. Municipality where I shared, best system, but the management changed, so they dropped the plan. Okay, does the workforce understand the strategy, embrace it, and do we have the culture we need to support the strategy execution? This are all we need to look at. So if you take care of all this, you will be number one in the game. Okay. Now, can you answer this? An HR scorecard is a visual model I don't see any answers. An HR scorecard is a visual model Darren nailed it. Wow. He put an answer openly. So demonstrates how HR contributes to the company's success. Brilliant, Darren. You got a guts, daring. Okay. The HR scorecard is a mechanism for describing and measuring how people and people management systems create value in the organizations, as well as communicating the key organizational objectives to the workforce. It is based on the strategy map, which is a visual depiction of what causes what in an organization, beginning with the HR and ending with the company success, financial results. We have seen in the strategy map, I explained the missing links. There, it is based on the strategy map, which is a visual depiction of what causes what. We have seen one example in the strategy map, the product specification, on time, timely delivery is missing. That is the consequence. As a consequence of this, what's happening? Win-win dealer relationship is affecting, net margin is getting affected, revenue is shrinking revenue growth. The linkages, root cause, we have to tackle those. So strategy maps helping you to visualize and fix those gaps. So here we are talking about HR scorecard, right? HR professionals, you all guys, bravo. You all taken a great initiative of doing the international accreditation, SPHRI, HR competencies, HR certifications, what you're doing, and HR related degrees, HR credibility, all that matters, right? HR professionals. That is a foundation. Then right HR practices will emerge, right HR alignment will come. We have seen yesterday yield ratio, in order to recruit, for example, Mohammed will need to have a brilliant salesman. So he will mobilize people around, you look at around 100 to 50 to 100 people, you may look at scanning through, various channels, sourcing channels, but then he will come out with, best 5. So that's a yield ratio, and 5 to 100, like that. Comp ratio, mid by salary. Yesterday Sonala answered. It's helping you to know whether salaries are within the ranges or going red circle. We can figure out. Then Kirkpatrick's levels, like learning, how far the people are grasping the training. That I'm going to explain the coming slide. 4 levels. It's across the industries, they are practicing this Kirkpatrick model, evaluation model. Then employee engagement, we are seeing in the employee engagement score. So the workforce scorecard is designed to solve the problem about the value creation process from the workforce success. At the other end, value creation process is the HR function and the role played by the HR professionals. We create the value. The HR scorecard highlighted the strategy HR role, what we play, and the HR management system play in successful implementation of the HR strategy. Also, the HR scorecard is a strategy HR measurement system that will help you to measure, manage, and improve the strategic role of your HR department. One thing you need to understand, whatever you are able to measure, you can better manage. If you are not able to measure, you cannot manage. So the HR scorecard consists of measurements of HR deliverables and the cost, right HR alignment, right HR practices, and right HR professionals. And the right HR delivery is a total investment in the workforce, not just the HR function, appropriate, not just minimized. Can it appropriate, or it can be minimized, or it's been compromised. The right HR, sometimes they cut down, right type of HR alignment. Are our HR practices aligned with the business strategy and differentiated across the positions where appropriate? Right HR practices, you need to ask questions, your management, or introspect yourself. Have we designed and implemented world-class HR management policies and practices throughout the business? Then right HR professionals. Do our HR professionals have the skills, competencies that need to design and implement a world-class HR management system? This we need to answer. Okay, here I'm just giving a quick overview of the Kirkpatrick model, wherein the first and foremost, you look at the reaction. For example, as soon as completion of the training, I may send out a link which you all answer. How was my training? Initial reaction, understanding of training, program quality, educator more, all that, you ask, immediately get the reaction. And then out of the program, how far it's learning, impact on the learning. So measures how much information was effectively absorbed during the training, that map to the program or individual learning objectives. Then behavior you're looking at. For example, there are frequently accidents are happening, incidents report is increasing alarmingly, and you don't know what to do. So you are recommending a safety, health safety, environmental safety program, and sending people spending money. So after the program, the post training measures how much your training has influenced the behavior of the participants. Have their behavior changed, behavioral modifications as a result out of the training, and evaluate how they apply the information on the job, whether they're able to follow the Kaizen, 5S, SISITSCO, SOTS, organizing, keeping it clean, whether they have 5S implementation, are they able to do? You need to check. Then the results, measure and analyze the impact your training has had at the business level, and be sure to tie it to the individual or the program. This is very important. And I can go beyond this 4-step, which is return on investment, which the stakeholders are always interested in. They're sending people on productivity is because you're compromising your work day. You're supposed to be in work, but you're going attending training. Whether the training what we are investing is worth it. Will you able to deliver results? The return on investment also very important. So this also yesterday we answered. We looked at what is the particular proportion of a number of female working in operation department to the aggregate number of representatives working in the office. So we looked at the total number of the workforce, and out of that we took 12%, which is operation department consists. We took out the number 1014. Then we looked at the number of female, 3,500 female. From that 14%, we took out of that. So that is 490. So we come out with the required ratio 490 is to 1014. So if you further divide by 2 both sides, you will get 245,507. Brilliant. So now we are looking at performance appraisals. In this, we are looking at the forced choice scale method. Yesterday also we discussed initially. I gave you an example of the disc profiling. When you answer Thomas International, psychometric profiling, you will be asked questions like what you most likely behave in a certain sentence. They will give a sentence. Will you able to make a quick decisions, or you think and act, those most likely and least likely. You have to answer either one of this. You'll answer most likely and least likely. You are forced to answer. Okay. Then after answering the 24 questions, they will come out with a disc profile. That's how it's been built. So here you are looking at example, written instructions for each of the following 2 items. Please indicate which behavior is most typical of the instructor's behavior. 1. Presentations were of excellent quality. The meetings held my interest and attention. The instructor was able to get the cooperation and attention of everyone. The instructor used class well. So if you're able to, answer each criteria, you need to build, it's a very time consuming. For every job is a nightmare in your company. Remember, it's a trainer there, so you build like this, 7 or 8 statements like this. Then you ask the managers to rate. Either but the results will be phenomenal, but it's a time consuming. Okay, so this method was developed to eliminate the bias and preponderance of high ratings that might skew towards people being rated high. Central tendency will be avoided. They'll be accurately very objective results will come outcome. So the primary purpose of the forced choice method is to correct the tendency of a rater to give a consistently high or low ratings to all the employees. The method makes use of the several sets of the pair phrases, as you see here, 1 or 2 of which may be positive, the other 2 may be negative, and the rater is asked to indicate which of the 4 phrases is most likely and least likely descriptive of the particular worker. Actually, the statement items are grounded in such a way that the rater cannot easily judge which statements apply to the most effective employees. They will be put in a hard time, the manager. They have to come out with the precisely, objectively. They have to answer. They have to justify. That's very important. That's the beauty of this instrument. So the following is a box, as you see here, the box is an illustration of force choice items in the organization. Okay. So this is how you build this. Okay. Next, I will ask one question related to this. The force choice method of appraisal require an appraiser to. This Mohammed suggested me first to introduce a topic, then ask the questions. Don't ask first question, you'll have no clue. That's a good suggestion. I took it seriously. Now you can confidently you can answer. The force choice method of appraisals requires appraisers to. There are pros and cons. There are some questions very easier that will stimulate your mind. So we can introduce and then we can explain. So it will create a kind of inquisitiveness in your mind. What is more? You need to, it will create an interest. Then I'll introduce the concept. Can you answer this? Let me see who is going to answer first. I got it. Smita and Ashok, both are answering C. Brilliant. Correct. I think all of you are doing phenomenally well. It's a brilliant batch. All of you, I guarantee, pass the exam. Yeah. Mashallah. So force choice is a variation on the checklist method in which the appraiser, you have been bombarded with the information. You cannot, you will never forget in your lifetime. So force choice method is a variation on the checklist method in which the appraiser is required to check two of the four statements. One that the employee is most like and one that the employee is least like. Very good. Brilliant. So now we are having getting a deep dive into the appraisals. Like we have the rating scales. We can have all these combinations. It can be a straight ranking, alternative ranking, paired comparison, forced distribution. Okay, you would have rolled out appraisals in your respective organizations with appraisals form asking the managers to evaluate the subordinates in a 5-point scale, Likert scale is very most popular. So ranking methods compare one employee to another. How can you compare apple to orange? Both has to be apple, no? Okay, jokes apart. Okay, so resulting in an ordering of the employees in relation to one another is very important. Okay, ranking often result in overall assessments of the employees rather than specific judgments about a number of job components. It's very important. Straight ranking requires evaluator to order the group of employees from the best to worst comparatively, and from most effective to the least effective in terms of certain criteria you are build the mechanism. So alternative ranking makes the same demand, but the ranking process must be done in a specified manner. For example, first selecting the best employee in the group, then the worst, the two outliers, best and the worst, two extremes. Then you go for the middle ones, second worst, second best, like that. That's how you do the alternative ranking. Then comparative evaluation system such as ranking are very rarely popular. Comparative system, it's not recommended also. No matter how close a group of employees is in the level of their performance, no matter how well they perform on the job, some will rank high and some will end up at the bottom. So we cannot, kind of comparative ranking. Paired comparison is not possible. Then evaluators at times, push too hard. They often reluctant to make such discriminations also. Everyone is their baby. In a family, children, everyone have positive and negative qualities, right? So if they are not doing well, we don't throw them out. In organization, we do. So, for example, it is difficult to say whether the second ranked employee in a unit A, in a department operation, is good or better than the second ranked employee in the finance or operations to sales, or R&D to the manufacturing. It's a different unit, how different levels of performance, different work demand context. But how can you compare, bring the comparison? Despite the problem of ranking methods, if the organization has a, you understand, no? For example, in Bubian Bank, we had a treasury department, which is very important department, had a limited number, only 7 people maximum, we had. Treasury is very important for the bank. If you ask them to, rate one above and one below, instead of building the morale, and we are, creating a cutthroat competition, which is not healthy. Yeah. So you understand the context, right? So forced distribution, this is how the context I'm building. Forced distribution is a form of, like, you would have seen the bell curve. Jack Welch was a CEO of General Electric. I told you earlier the story. He was an engineer. He got $1,000 as a bonus. When he compared, others also got the same. He got pissed off. He put the resignation. And then when he became a CEO, he wanted to distinguish the top players with the mediocre. And they introduced the concept called forced distribution curve, bell curve system in General Electric. And there was a lot of debate about this, that we are going to discuss today. So in banks in Kuwait, most of the banks where I worked, NBK, Bubian Bank, Warba Bank, all they are using this. So until ranking methods, forced distribution is frequently applied to several rather than only one component of the job performance. So use of the job forced distribution method is demonstrated by a manager who is told that he or she must rate subordinates according to the distribution, which the pool which has been given, allocated. 10% low, 20% outstanding, above average, 10% high, and 60% of people are meet expectation, and 20% below. So low category. So this kind of categories like below category, meet expectation, above expectation, outstanding. This 4 in the below average category, 8 in the average, 4 above the average, and 2 would be placed in the highest category. Like that, they force you to choose only 2 people outstanding, and then 3 people for above expectation, and around 8 people in meet expectation, and push 2 or 3 in the below expectation, and poor people 1 or 2. Like that, you have been asked to rate the people. So the proportions of the forced distributions can vary. It can company to company, that it can be a 10%, 15%, 30%, like that. It may vary. For example, a supervisor could be required to place an employee into a top level, middle level, and the bottom thirds of the distribution. So forced distribution is primarily used to eliminate the rating errors such as leniency and central tendency. For example, if you don't have this system, everyone will be rated good and above expectation. So in order to bring break that monotony, so they are bringing this kind of system to justify where exactly they belongs to. They have to put in certain appropriate place. For example, even if all employees in a unit are doing a good job, as I told you in the treasury department, it's a small team, but very effective, very mission critical role they are doing. The forced distribution approach dictates that a certain number be placed at the bottom of a graded continuum and certain people at the top. For this reason, raters and the ratees do not readily accept this method, especially in small groups and when group members are all of high ability, high caliber. Okay, now we are going to a deep dive into the pros and cons. Uh, the positive side, identify the extremes. Yes, of course, as Jack Wells proposed in and implemented in successfully in General Electric, one of the leading pioneers, champion talents, and they convey the message across the workforce. This is how we distinguish across the board. This message is conveyed. Work for performance-driven culture, some kind of bringing agility in the company, like this, the champion talents and comparison in the large groups, it's possible, the positive side. Whereas negative side, damage the morale. You need to supposed to be building the morale, you are damaging, disaster and reduces collaboration. Your core value says teamwork, synergy, all the talking, but doing something opposite. Fairness problem, because the nationalities, ethnic groups, we have different. So how you bring about, justice and supported in a small group, so these are, pros and cons we are looking at. Would you like to discuss some points? Is there any triggers you get? You can openly share. You can stop me and ask me any questions. So proponents across the industry, they are advocating the forced ranking, have a strong opinions in favor of and against of its use. There are always debates going on. Advocates of forced ranking state that the approach creates and sustain a high performance culture. That's what the banks wants to be, number one, a competitive cutthroat culture they wanted to create. So involuntary turnover is managed by eliminating the weak performers and retaining the strong performers. Over the period, the P player also becomes a push to C player, So correlates with the total return to shareholders. That's very important. Shareholders are expecting, trying to extract, getting the maximum results out of the minimal input. Always, everyone is looking for that. So recent research indicates a strong correlation between the companies with a strong performance management processes and 5-year total year, it's resulted in 5-year total shareholder returns. When you driven this culture, performance driven culture, it's resulted positively. The research just being published by Anderson involves 200 companies across the wide range of industries. It shows that companies that use the Anderson company itself collapsed. They propagated this research. Sad part. Okay, it shows that the companies that use the individual criteria to assess the performance of the employees and the managers significantly outperform companies that focuses primarily on measuring the business unit or overall company performance. Also, the study also indicated companies whose managers are highly skilled at communicating the business goals and objectives and providing a structured feedback also enjoy high shareholder value. This we all agree. This is a very good inference. We can all adapt. Feedback is important. That resulted in good shareholder value returns. Okay, establishes well-defined consequences. Top performing employees receive substantially larger rewards. That's how the coupling. We have coupling, in the shirt you do. Likewise, you are linking the performance rating with the merit rating. Total reward is been coupled with the performance management. That's a merit review exercise you do year end. Base pay, bonuses, outstanding 5%, above expectation 4%, meet expectation 3%, and you link, and then you give the substantial increase in terms of bonus, variable pay, other stuff. So that is distinguishing the high performers with the average performers. Those falling at the lower end of the scale typically receive coaching and are on notice to improve the performance. That's a separate track. You may have an improvement plan. So makes a performance management a corporate priority with the real consequences. Performance management takes on a reward, very meaningfully, very seriously they are taking it. So let's say employee know where they stand. One of the common complaints from the employee is about the lack of feedback on their performance. Forced ranking sends a clear message as to how people stand or fail. Okay, this is a clear message has been conveyed to the workforce. Those who are opposed to the workforce ranking, there are two sides. One side of the coin I showed you. The other side of the coin, people who are opposing, they are suggesting this process may be detrimental to morale. It's a disaster. We want high performing workplaces, yet we also want the people to enjoy coming to work. When you wake up from the sleep, you have to have a kind of kick out of the bed, jump out of the bed to to work towards your company, wherever you work. The discretionary effort has to come. If you do a performance rating like this, who will get motivated? Can we have both balanced? So emphasize the individual performance at the expense of team performance. Okay, so you are creating a rat race in the everyone is having cutthroat competition. It's not healthy, right? Killing each other. So can we have both? So employees will be somebody joining now. Okay, so you need to strike a balance. Aarti, thank you, Aarti. Employees will be less willing to pitch in and help others. So completing the individual assignments become more important. Promote competition. If the employees are ranked, will there be a less cooperation? Yes, of course, it's bound to happen. And helping others. Now the corporate values and McKinsey and other leading consultants promoting, helping others is one of the important competency we need to promote. But does it promote this? The system will damage helping others. So each organization, through careful analysis, will have to decide if this approach would be beneficial or detrimental for the company. It's up to you. The first two considerations should be, what are your performance management objectives? What does your culture value, core values you are displayed, conveying to the community? Does it reflect? Is there a congruence in what you're saying, what you're doing? Is there any mismatch? What does your culture value? Very important. What are your performance management objectives? So here you are looking at the pros and cons is clearly evident. That okay, I think as time up now, we'll wind up. Any questions you have? Actually, collectivism and individualism. You are supposed to promote a teamwork, right? Collectivism or the forced ranking does not work well for standing teams, where it is important to support each other. So, for example, major European retailers which I come across as a consultant emphasize teamwork on the sales floor. They wanted to have they wanted to have good teamwork. This enables the associates to fluidly move to where they are most needed. They can just pitch in wherever the situation warrants. A forced ranking system would have a detrimental effect on this goal. We agree. Alternatively, project teams in which groups disband, reform, and are result oriented find that the forced ranking works extremely very well. On the other hand, product design teams and professional service firms also like this model. Context, according to the context, varies. Then the reliability and the flexibility. If the quality is the number one issue, consider the driving the performance through quality improvements instead of forced ranking. If certain value you have superior quality, delight customer, take initiative to deliberately promote that value instead of having a forced ranking. This is my recommendation. A flexible structure applies to project-driven approaches where it is critical that individuals take the initiative. Flexibility in their sales staff. For example, Mohammed worked for Nissan. The flexibility in their sales staff to customize the offerings and provide a high-touch services. Personal touch. Customer has to be comfortable in dealing with you. The customer experience, what you build, is very important. Making a forced ranking system a viable option, you need to ponder. Activity and results. Results-based organizations create increased accountability and use defined performance measures. If you have the activity results oriented, you can have this. Then you need to look at control. Certain mentality of the management is control, policing, inspecting. Other management mindset is empowerment. Give freedom. Give space for the people to thrive, like Google and other Fortune 500 companies. In a highly scripted, controlled environment, setting minimum criteria for performance may be best approach. Call centers. It's not in the book. I'm just giving you, practical experience. Call centers, for example, you would have seen in the call center a big display. My name appear. Francis spend 5 minutes idle time. 6 minutes is, and what's the time duration I take? It's been dashboard. It's been displayed everywhere. If you look at Viva, elder Zain or Viva, Orido, you'll see this kind of display. Even the Bubian Bank call center. So if you have 100 fully trained call center representatives, setting a criteria versus ranking each representative may be a wiser approach. I recommend this. Organizations that value empowerment also encourage the flexibility and initiative necessary in a high performance environment. It again depends on the context. There are certain customers who are having real issues. The call center executives tackling, it may take more time. So you need to again, deal carefully in case to case basis. Okay. Then another perspective, functional versus specialized field. Forced ranking works best for the companies with similar positions. Similar. It will be more difficult for those with hierarchical functional structures. A large number of positions and titles, small departments, if you have a limited number of employees, it is a problem. I think I have exhausted, with all the ideas. Okay, we'll continue in the next class about the graphic rating scales and other metrics about, the Solomon 4 group. We already, came across this concept while doing the quiz, question and answer. Remember, Solomon 4 group design. You were all wondering what is this Solomon 4 group design. So I'm going to explain. We'll have a deep dive, and then we'll again look at the behavioral anchored rating scale. Okay, and behavioral observation scales. The pros and cons we'll look at.